But let me come now to this issue about apprenticeships. And I listened very carefully to what Stuart was saying earlier. And I have great sympathy for some of the issues that are facing you, because apprenticeships, if they are anything, have to be adaptable, they have to be wide-ranging, and they have to fit in with a broader policy, not just talking about modern apprenticeships as though they were in one discrete box that you could just open and shut at the relevant times. I think that transferability of skills is so important, and I'm sure that's an issue that affects all of you here. So I think that before we talk about how we fund the apprenticeships and how we develop a policy that meets the demand of businesses and education, I think it's very important to know exactly what it is that we're trying to do. I think in that there are some key issues. I think we do have to be flexible. I think apprenticeships can mean all sorts of different things. And I think politicians actually are guilty of talking about apprenticeships as if they mean just one particular thing. That's not true, and that's very evident from what Stuart was saying earlier. There are all kinds of different apprenticeships, and I think to be able to move our employment forward in the future, I think we need to accept that there is that flexibility, there is that difference and diversity, and it's something that we need to work at, and politicians need to take note of that, because I don't think we've been very good at taking note of some of the messages that have been coming back from employers and from people who have been developing apprentices. And we share all that blame. It's just not a government issue, but I'll come to some more points on this in just a minute. I think there are also issues about transferability, that when you are learning skills these days, they are skills that ought to be able to be transferred to other aspects if you change job or if you diversify in that job. And again, I'm not sure we're terribly good at that. Perhaps the Curriculum for Excellence could do a little bit more on that basis, because that's what its founding principles are supposed to be all about. But you will not be able to diversify and have these different and develop these different skills unless you have some of the basic knowledge to allow you to do that. Now let me come to this issue about the Apprenticeship Levy, which I know is causing anxiety, and it has been controversial. Let's be quite upfront about that. It's been controversial in England, and obviously it is controversial in Scotland. And I noticed that the Business Insider magazine just this month has been looking at the issue about whether the apprenticeship levy is exactly what we want. Well, can I say that I think, in principle, I think it is the right thing to do. But, as I understand it, not nearly enough consultation has taken place about the way it is supposed to work. And I mean that in Scotland just as much as happened down south. I think there has been a lack of engagement, and I notice that there are comments from the STF who are saying that there's been a lack of engagement in other areas, so hopefully your survey might produce some results that, as I say, politicians need to take heed of. But I think the apprenticeship levy, its founding principles are the right ones in terms of trying to encourage all of us to take on apprentices, but to take them on in a way that is beneficial not only to them, but to you, and to make sure that there is this quality assurance that if you are making a payment for that apprenticeship levy, or a tax as some people have called it, that there is a benefit that is readily understood, that it's very transparent, and that you really feel that there is that extra value added to everything that you're doing. So I think that's something that we need to concentrate on. And can I just flag up, I know the Minister is probably not here yet, but I do think the Scottish Government's got a challenge to try to engage with the sector more. I get the message back from people I speak to that they didn't feel the engagement was there at all, that everything has been hurried, and particularly in terms of the most recent developments about more flexible working, etc., again, there wasn't enough engagement. We're not going to succeed in politics unless we take people with us. And so my message to you today is very much to try to get that engagement and to understand exactly what it is that your concerns are. And if you feel that the apprenticeship levy is not the right thing to do, then it would be very helpful to know what you would like to replace it with or how you would like to develop it. But as I say, it ought to work, it should work, but perhaps it's not working as well as it could be just now because that engagement hasn't been as comprehensive as it ought to be.